All right, the problem is that XSS subverts the same origin policy. And here's how. So the attack happens within the same origin. The attacker tricks a server, for example, bank.com, to send a malicious script to the users. The user then visits bank.com. This is the victim user. And the malicious script has the origin of bank.com, so it's permitted to access the resources on bank.com. And we'll see in more detail how it works, but basically there's two categories. One is stored XSS, which shows up when the attacker leaves JavaScript lying around on benign web services for a victim to load. So basically when the script is stored at the server and the user just fetches it from there. And the other is reflected XSS, when the attacker gets the user to click on a URL that has the script in the URL, and the web server reflects back the script to the user. And we'll see step by step each one of these. So let's start with the stored or persistent XSS. So the attacker somehow manages to store a malicious script at the web server, for example, at bank.com. We'll see how it can do that. The server later sends the script to the victim's browser, maybe most likely without realizing. The victim, because it gets the script as part of the web page, is running the script, and the script is running in the bank.com origin. So it can do anything it wants on that web page. So basically, this is the layout. So you have here, the attacker, let's say evil.com, and the attacker will somehow inject malicious script on bank.com. For example, you can fill in a form with a script instead of a name, and we'll see in detail how that works. But it manages to somehow inject this malicious script in bank.com, and bank.com stores it in the database. Later, when a user victim comes to fetch the page for bank.com, bank.com serves the malicious script with the page without knowing that there's a malicious script. The victim is going to execute the script as part of loading the web page, and it runs in the origin of bank.com, which can do a number of bad things. For example, it can perform an action that the attacker wanted on bank.com, and the server will accept it thinking it's from the user victim, such as maybe transferring money. For example, this is the HTTP GET request that sends money to Dr. Evil in a certain amount. Or it can get data from the web page, such as credit card information, and send that data to the server. Okay, because a script can do anything. A script can send stuff to servers, a script can modify the page. As long as it's within the same origin as bank.com, the browser won't prevent it from accessing any of the resources of the bank.com page within the browser. So for example, this you can do by just doing an HTTP GET request to evil.com and attaching a document cookie. I mentioned very briefly that the cookies are session authenticators. So basically, it authenticates the user to bank.com for a while. So you don't have to put your password in multiple times. We'll see later in the class how cookies actually work. But basically, if one can steal your cookie, likely they'll be able to log in as you for a period of time. So you can send this login information to the evil.com, and evil.com can then log in as the user. Okay, so there's many bad things that can happen if an attacker manages to inject a script into the web page of a certain origin into the user's browser. And this is a stored attack because the bank.com had stored the malicious script. Okay, so just to summarize it, and then we'll actually even see a demo of how it works. The user visits a vulnerable web service. The attacker goal is to run a malicious script in the user's browser with the same access as provided to the server's regular scripts by the same origin policy. And the attacker, so what the attacker needs is the ability to leave the content on the web server page. And that can be done in many different ways. We'll see some ways as examples. And the really problem here is that the server did not check what content is stored. It didn't check that it stored some script from a user when it was not expecting a script.